Fatty acids. Okay, triglycerides. You take glycerol and you add 3 fatty acids, and you get a fat or a triglyceride. Be able to recognize these structures. You're not going to have to draw this. You're not going to have to put down structures. You just got to recognize them. Recognize cholesterol as a 4-ring structure. Cholesterol is the starting point for estrogen, testosterone, corticosteroids. It's found in all cell membranes. It's very important. Know that cholesterol is a fat. What are phospholipids? Phospholipids have 2 tails and a head. You have the phosphate group, which is polar, and you have the 2 tails, which are non-polar, because the tails are made out of only carbon and hydrogen. So they're very non-polar. In order for them to be polar, you have to have oxygen. That's why the top of this diagram, the phosphate group makes the top portion of the phospholipid have a charge and makes it polar. The 2 tails, like the 2 legs, are non-polar. Proteins. What's the most famous protein for the last 8 months? Spike protein of the coronavirus. So read through that. Know that proteins are made of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen, and sometimes a little sulfur. Know what proteins do. Know to recognize the structure of an amino acid. Know what the R group means, the carboxylic acid group, the amino group. You'll have a lot of diagrams of amino acids. They're the building blocks of proteins. They serve as the monomers, the one part that builds up polymer proteins. Polymer means many parts. Monomer means one part. The body puts together amino acids to build thousands of different proteins. Know what a peptide bond is? It's formed by dehydration synthesis. A peptide bond can be broken down by hydrolysis. So pay close attention to the formation of a peptide bond. Recognize where it occurs. And you may want to read about that, or I'm sure it'll be discussed in the modules. Proteins have shapes. The shape of a protein determines what the protein does. So be aware of the different shapes and how proteins get those shapes. Okay? If proteins are distorted, they don't work. The protein shape determines its function and its structure, and that determines its activity. Read through this enzyme function. So enzymes are proteins that promote chemical reactions without being used up. That's what you got to know. So read through these 3 steps in enzyme activity, and you'll be cool. Nucleic acids. We don't care about these. Just know that DNA and RNA are made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Know that because of RNA research and DNA research, we have a vaccine in a couple months. Without the research of the last 70 years, there would be no vaccine. This is an incredible revolutionary moment. The material studied and the processes put in place for the COVID vaccines is going to totally change how diseases are treated. The best way to treat a disease, though, is to go on a plant-based diet. Okay? So you probably know this already. Just know that nucleic acids are made up of nitrogenous bases, and that a nucleotide structure has a phosphate group, a sugar, and a nitrogenous base. Let's take another break. Okay. Stop recording. Okay.